So we're talking about monopolistic competition. In monopolistic competition, the first assumption that we have is basically to do with the idea that there are large number of firms. Number two is that all firms are small and have a significantly small market share. So there is no firm which has market power significant enough to determine its price. It's a lot of firms. All firms are small, and also not only these firms are small, but they're also the firms are independent. The firms are independent would mean that one firm's price or output decision doesn't affect another firm. So, for example, let's say if I'm one firm in a monopolistic competition, if I sell more quantity, it doesn't result in another firm to have a lower market share. There's tons of buyers and sellers out there. So one firm's output doesn't really affect another firm's output. All firms are independent. Unlike oligopoly, where there is interdependence, here there is no interdependence. It's independent market structure. Okay. Also, the third thing we need to know about is in monopolistic competition is that firms produce what we call differentiated products. They don't make identical products, they make differentiated products. And because of this differentiated products, you would see that there is some kind of brand loyalty that exists here. That brand loyalty is kind of like a not so strong brand loyalty, but kind of weak brand loyalty, because there are many firms. But brand loyalty would also mean relatively, not perfectly elastic demand curve, but relatively elastic demand curve. So the demand isn't perfectly elastic, unlike sort of perfect competition. The fourth assumption that we have under sort of monopolistic competition is an important one, that there is no barriers to entry or exit in this market structure in monopolistic competition. So in other words, when you look at this market, any firm can enter or exit depending on profit. If there are profits happening, you may see entry of firms. If there is losses happening, you may see firms may exit. But coming and going isn't really a problem. So this market structure is very close to perfect competition, except for the fact that there is this assumption, which is differentiated products. While perfect competition make identical products, these guys are making differentiated products. And because of this assumption of differentiated products, we'll see that the equilibrium will change for monopolistic competition. And so let's talk about the equilibrium. Look at equilibrium in the monopolistic competition. Let's first talk about the short run. In the short run, we'll say this, that the demand curve is downward sloping, but it's very elastic. So we have a demand curve like this, which is downward sloping but very elastic, something on those lines. And your MR is, again, because the demand curve is downward sloping, MR is below the demand curve. So this is our demand curve, this is our MR. Now MC is equal to MR, because in monopolistic competition also firms are profit maximizer, which would mean MC maximizer. Sorry. So which would mean MC is equal to MR. So MC is equal to MR would mean firms are making, for example, Q star quantity at the price P star. Okay, but because these firms are making producing at MC is equal to MR, they are trying to sort of maximize profit. Now, if you are in a perfect competition, there could also be a possibility that your ATC is below your price, and in the short run, therefore, there is a possibility that firms can make supernormal profits. If price is greater than ATC, then firm can make supernormal profit. Could be a possibility that you might have this area showing us supernormal profit because price is greater than ATC. So firms under monopolistic competition can make supernormal profit if price is greater than ATC. However, the demand is very elastic, but not perfectly elastic. Why is it not perfectly elastic? Because it has a differentiated product, which means some brand loyalty, but that brand loyalty isn't strong enough. A good example of monopolistic competition could be your restaurant industry. Like there are many restaurants out there, each has some market share, and because of that, people may have preferences, but that brand loyalty isn't strong enough. Or barbers or tailors, for everyday kind of clothing के लिए अगर आपके पास कोई tailor हो, that would be kind of a monopolistic competition. The brand loyalty isn't strong enough. For barber, the brand loyalty isn't strong enough, but there is some brand loyalty. Okay, in the long run, basically we can say this, that in the long run, because of supernormal profits, so no supernormal profits can lead to entry of new firms, and that entry of new firms actually can lead to what we call normal profits to happen. So perfect competitions, monopolistic competitions, equilibrium in the long run would look like this. So guys, when the entry of new firms happen, this is an important point to understand. When the entry of new firms happen, the firms are again trying to maximize profits. So MC is equal to MR would mean that they would probably be charging P star and Q star is the quantity. But at this particular quantity, everyone is making normal profit. Why would everyone make normal profit? Let me first make normal profit here. So everyone is making normal profit, where price, I should also call this long run average cost curve. So price is equal, let's call this long run marginal cost curve. Price is equal to ATC. Basically what happens is this, that when new firms enter, then each firm would have a lower market share. So entry of new firms will basically result in demand for existing firms to fall, because they will have a lower market share. And that lower market share basically would mean, let's say if your demand was like, if I make an imaginary demand, if your demand was like this before, your demand would start, this demand curve would start to sort of fall and will come to this D. Don't make this demand curve, but basically your demand start to fall. Okay, so you might have a higher demand curve before, but now because of new firms entry, your demand falls till everyone start to make normal profit. Got it? So that's the thing that happens in the monopolistic competition, that monopolistic competition in the long run would result in each firm to make normal profits. And why are firms entering easily? Because there's no barrier to entry and exit. Make sense? So like perfect competition, monopolistic competition also result in normal profits to happen in the long run. The next discussion would be about, comparison with perfect competition. So if you compare perfect competition with monopolistic competition, how is monopolistic competition doing when it comes to efficiency? So we'll make that diagram again to compare that with perfect competition. So long run marginal cost is this, okay, MC is equal to MR. Let's say this is monopolistic competition's output, PM and QM, and if they're making normal profits, then they will produce at point A. But if this same market was under perfect competition's demand curve would have been like this. Remember, this is perfectly competitive firm. So perfectly competitive firm's demand curve would have been the green curve. So this could have been my P, let's call this C, and this could be my demand curve under perfect competition, while this is my demand curve under monopolistic competition. Because perfect competition is a perfectly elastic demand curve, what you can see is the perfect competition would have a slightly lower price. Also, not only slightly lower price, it will make more quantity. So there is a possibility that QC minus QM is what we call our excess capacity or spare capacity. If you are under monopolistic competition, number one, they do not produce at full capacity. There is some spare capacity that exists because perfect competition produces more as a firm than monopolistic competition, number one. Number two is the idea, so that's number one. Number two idea that we can see is this, that perfect competition produces where P equals to MC. This point is your spare capacity. QC minus QM is your spare capacity. While perfect competition is, I'm also saying this, that produces where P equals to MC. At this point, price, which is your demand, is your price, is equal to MC. But at point A, MR is equal to MC here. So at point A, price is here, but MC is greater, price is greater than MC. So in other words, perfect competition is allocatively efficient, but monopolistic competition is not allocatively efficient as price is greater than MC. So what we argue with this is that perfect competition is both allocatively and productively efficient, and monopolistic competition is not allocatively efficient and also not productively efficient. The only advantage that we can see of monopolistic competition is that they give you a different variety of products, and that could be an advantage for consumers. But otherwise, on grounds of efficiency, monopolistic competition is not doing too well. Does that make sense? That's it for monopolistic competition.